Well, Liverpool beginning their journey to try and win a second Champions League title in 3 seasons this evening when they take on Ajax, 4-time winners of the competition at the Johan Cruyff Stadium. We'll look forward to that one in a moment. Just to give you the latest scores in the early kickoffs that got underway at 6 p.m. Real Madrid at home against Shakhtar Donetsk, and it is the Ukrainian side who continue to lead against the record winners of this competition. Shakhtar 3-2 up with about 6 minutes of normal time left, and Lokomotiv Moscow have got an equaliser against RB Salzburg. It's now 2 goals apiece in that one. Now, coming up at 8 p.m, we have got Ajax against Liverpool, a clash of 2 royal teams in this competition. And Dominic King, the Northwest reporter with the Daily Mail, joins us to look forward to this one. Dominic, good evening to you.
Evening, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. You were writing about Virgil van Dijk and the impact that he's had on Liverpool since he signed a couple of years ago. And if you look at just purely from a Premier League point of view, I was ripped the stat out of your article. 96 appearances he's made in the Premier League. They've kept 44 clean sheets during that period. He has had a transformative effect on Liverpool. How much is he going to be missed over the next few months?
Immeasurably. I think what Gini Wijnaldum said last night to preview this Ajax game, he said about the players not being able to sleep and how angry they were at the circumstances that have led to Virgil being out for this, we think, for the rest of the season. He's just had a transformative effect on the club. I called him a security blanket the other day. I think that's the best way to describe him. He just makes everybody feel in the team, in the stadium, feel so much better about Liverpool's chances, and it's an enormous blow. And the fact that I think you've seen sort of emotional reactions from Jurgen Klopp in all his press briefings today from Saturday. It just goes to show how much he's hurting as well.
Because I'd imagine if Liverpool were to lose Mo Salah or Sadio Mane, it has an impact on the attack, but the goals can be shared around. Van Dijk has been such a crucial element, not just in terms of his own individual performances, but how Liverpool defend. And even this season, we were seeing that Jurgen Klopp was encouraging his team to defend with an even higher line. And without his pace, it becomes very difficult to use that system that Liverpool were looking to implement.
Yeah, it's not just the pace though, is it? I mean, the pace gets him out of trouble every now and again. It's just the reading of the game, and I think that the best example you can give of that was what he did to Moussa Sissoko, be 18 months ago now, in a game against Tottenham at Anfield when he was 2-on-1, and he just basically psyched Sissoko out of it with his presence and his stature and the way he just, he basically dared him into shooting when the shot wasn't on, when it would have been easier to pass. It's just, he gets into the mind of strikers, Van Dijk. Is sort of, it's kind of like going into a ring with an unbeatable boxer, isn't it? You always know that they've got a punch in them. Van Dijk's always got a tackle in him, or a header. His statistics for heading's absolutely incredible as well. So, listen, it's not going to... I wouldn't want to say it's a fatal blow to what Liverpool are hoping to achieve this season, but it's going to be an extreme test of character for them to come back from this, because I can't sort of emphasise enough just how upset and how moved they've been by the players have been by losing Van Dijk.
Yeah, because it's an added challenge too when you take Alisson's injury, where Adrian has not performed well in goal this season, and again he would have been very disappointed with the Michael Keane goal at the weekend, which went straight through him. You've already got that kind of concern if you're a Liverpool defender about the player who's playing behind you, who's cost you points and arguably cost them the Champions League tie with Atletico Madrid last season. Then you take Van Dijk out, Thiago, who had come in and who had been impressing in his early stages, picks up a bit of a knock. These are all kind of bad factors to be happening at the one time.
They are, but I have to sort of play devil's advocate with all this. Other teams have had injuries before. Other teams have lost big players for considerable amounts of times. Liverpool won't be the first team that this happens to. They won't be the last. It's just the fact that they've lost the world's best central defender, and I'd say one of the world's top 3 goalkeepers. And that's sort of really rattled them. And it's a big test of character. They have to get through it. They're a top side. They're the champions, and now's the time for them to show the mettle.
What was your take on Jurgen Klopp's comments responding back to Jamie Carragher? Jamie Carragher has since defended himself and said they have to go and probably get a top quality defender in January if they possibly can. It was difficult to foresee that this was going to happen, that you would lose your best player for a prolonged period of time. And it's probably difficult enough to try and convince a defender to come in and then say, right, you're either signing someone who is absolutely the right quality to step directly into the Liverpool team, or you're buying somebody and potentially then not giving chances to Joe Gomez. Sometimes it's not quite as simple as saying, right, we should have went and spent money in the summer just gone by.
No, it isn't. And I think what's sort of been lost in translation between Jamie and Jurgen Klopp is, I don't think Jamie Carragher ever said in the summer that Liverpool should have bought a new defender. Yes, they lost Lovren. But in Klopp's mind, it was going to be Van Dijk, Gomez, Matip, and then Fabinho as the fourth. He likes that they've got a couple of really good kids coming through, Reece Williams and Billy Kameko, that they think an awful lot of. Now, it would obviously, I have to sort of clarify that it would be asking an awful lot for them to come in. But the main transfer business that everybody connected with Liverpool wanted to see happen was Thiago Alcantara, and they got that over the line. They've made other signings, such as Diogo Jota. They signed the left back to Kostas Tsimikas that everybody said that they needed. So they did the business that was basically being asked of them, and nobody could have envisaged something like this happening. And you make a great point as well. Are you going to really spend £30 million on a defender to come in to sit on the bench? It's just not feasible.
Yeah, it's often the same argument about a goalkeeper, and there is a massive drop in standard between Alisson and Adrian, and it seems, from an Irish perspective, a lot of Ireland supporters are wondering, will Caoimhín Kelleher get a chance? He has had a bit of a chance in the English League Cup, but it seems that Klopp doesn't entirely trust him to put him in. He's continued to put Adrian in as second choice. It's difficult to go and find a second choice goalkeeper who's going to be good enough if Alisson picks up an injury. There's very few clubs across Europe who currently have two top-class goalkeepers and one who's willing to accept to sit on the bench for 75% of the season.
No, probably Tottenham I would say the best stocked in that department, because they've got Hugo Lloris and they've just signed Joe Hart on a free transfer. They would, if you looked at it, they would probably have the strongest two or the strongest number two to come in. I'd say
many other fans will probably argue Dean Henderson and David De Gea are probably similarly two good goalkeepers.
Yes, that's a very good point. I'm just thinking about Joe Hart in terms of his career and everything that he's achieved, and his international caps and the medals that he's won. But in terms of Kelleher, they really like him. They like him. He's still very young, but he does a huge sort of role behind the scenes in helping keep Alisson prepared, keep Adrian on his toes. And I know he's still a young lad, but they do think an awful lot about him and the ability that he's got.
Okay. A player who's going to come in and get a chance over the next while as a first-team starter is likely to be Joe Gomez. Was watching the Merseyside derby at the weekend. I actually thought he acquitted himself very well when he came on. He's not going to be Virgil van Dijk, but is he ready to step in and be a very important player for Liverpool over the next few months?
Joe Gomez is England's, I'm quite happy to say, England's best natural defender. Brilliant on the ball. He's still only 23. I think people have been quick to forget there was, when he came back into the team last December, him and Van Dijk had a partnership where I think they conceded one goal in 990 minutes in the Premier League. Joe Gomez is a top player. He's had his issues. He's not been in the best of form towards the end of last season. Probably he's had a little bit of a shaky start at the beginning of this one. If Joe Gomez gets into a rhythm, Liverpool have got a top player. And then you add Joel Matip in, who's never let Klopp down. Been a superb signing. They've got a really strong central defensive unit there. Obviously, there's both of them have had issues in terms of fitness and one thing and another, but in terms of ability, that defence is as good as anything around in the top four. It's just the thing that Liverpool have had is they've had Van Dijk that have taken them into a different stratosphere. And And as I said, it's time for Joe and Joel Matip to really establish themselves again and make a partnership that, let's make things hard for people when they come back.
And Fabinho's versatility becomes extremely useful at the moment. He can play in different positions in midfield, he can play right back, and he can play right centre back. And right centre back maybe is where he's going to have to play while Joel Matip is still recovering.
Yeah, and another little curveball as well. Don't forget Jordan Henderson played as a central defender last Christmas in Doha when Liverpool won the Club World Cup. He played one game there, and they were all sort of taken aback by how well he played. So there's another option if there was an emergency, because Liverpool are well stocked in terms of midfielders. So I think, as I said, it's been a huge sort of 72 hours for Liverpool in terms of getting over this huge blow, and particularly the manner in which it happened. It was a dreadful tackle. He should have been sent off. We know about that now for Jordan Pickford, but there is really no point dwelling on it now. Because the more you dwell on something, the more you'll distract yourself from achieving stuff in the future. So no, it's as I said, it's been a difficult period, but now they have to start moving forward.
We were looking at the Liverpool 11, which has been picked to face Ajax tonight, and a name that probably stands out on the team sheet in terms of getting a look at the future of Liverpool is Curtis Jones. He's been given a chance to play in midfield tonight. What's the feeling about him and his development so far?
Curtis is not someone that is going to lack for confidence. So let's put it this way: that if he's playing in the Champions League tonight against Ajax in a wonderful stadium like the Amsterdam Arena, he won't be bothered at all. He'll think that's where he was supposed to be from day one. Full of belief, full of confidence, and I think the development that he's made over the last 12 months has really impressed the coaching staff and the senior players. He's had a couple of big moments, none more so than the goal that he scored against Everton in the FA Cup in January. So he's very much Liverpool's future, and these are the opportunities that he's gonna grasp. I think he's a name you'll certainly be hearing more and more of in the future.
Yeah, well, there's no better way to announce yourself as a star than scoring a winner in a Merseyside derby, albeit in the FA Cup, with an unusual starting team that day for Jurgen Klopp's side. But since then, I was just having a little bit of a look earlier, he's been regularly on the bench for Liverpool since the restart. So I appreciate that there are bigger squads being picked, but Jurgen Klopp has had him around the first team squad now quite a bit since Project Restart in the summer. Yeah,
he has. And he's not around the squad just to make up the numbers. Klopp's not that kind of manager. It's romantic to have Trent Alexander-Arnold and now Curtis in terms of local lads who are in the team, but they wouldn't be there if Klopp didn't think they could do a job. He's still learning, obviously. Curtis, he's still got some way to go, but every time he sort of plays, he makes a difference. Even last month in the League Cup at Lincoln, scored, great performance, full of cunning and craft and guile and energy, and he's definitely got the attributes to fit into that Liverpool midfield.
Well, Liverpool kick off against Ajax at 8 p.m. in the Champions League. Dominic, before I let you go, I want to ask you about the blue side of Merseyside, because this has been a remarkable start to the season, unbeaten in the first 5 games. They've navigated that first Merseyside derby of the season and getting away with a 2-2, perhaps thanks to VAR in the closing stages on Saturday lunchtime. But Carlo Ancelotti, went and did a bit of a sweep around the supermarket to sign players in the little break during the summer that he had. It all seems to have clicked together very nicely for them in the first half dozen games of the season.
They're flying. I had the pleasure of speaking to Duncan Ferguson last week. Did a rare interview with him, and he was just extolling the virtues of Carlo Ancelotti in terms of how he's transformed the club. I think he I said to Duncan that he's made Everton credible again, and by that I mean people are looking at Everton now and believing there's real substance to what they're doing. I think the fans have every right to sort of be. They've not been this enthusiastic, I don't think, since the early part of David Moyes' reign. But it's a different level. And I need to stress that, they've bought James Rodriguez, Allen's making a difference, Abdoulaye Doucouré's making a difference, young Ben Godfrey, he came thrown in to the Merseyside derby to make his debut, didn't look out of place whatsoever. I think he'll be a big name for Everton in the future. So they've had a really, really good transfer window, which they hadn't done really in 4 years. So no, this is very, very encouraging for Everton. And yes, there's going to be bumps in the road, but in a season which is going to be unpredictable, they have every right to think they can be in the top 6, maybe even the top 4.
Well, there you go. Everton 1 point clear currently at the top of the Premier League after 5 games. Dominic, thanks a million for joining us on Off the Ball this evening.
Pleasure.
Just before I go to the break, I'll give you the results from the early games from the group stages of the Champions League. Real Madrid had the ball in the net very late on, but it was ruled out by VAR. Shakhtar Donetsk have beaten Real Madrid in the Spanish capital 3-2. So Real Madrid going into the Clásico this weekend against Barcelona with back-to-back defeats. And it's finished 2 apiece between Salzburg and Lokomotiv Moscow. We'll be back in a moment.
Football on Off the Ball
with Paddy Power. New normal, same old football. Paddy Power. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
What do you do if Plan A doesn't work out when it comes to your career? At what stage does Plan B get the call up? And how can companies support those coming into the workplace with no degree